Next up, we're going to cover a few elements that have to do with lists. So two different types of lists. We can make a numbered list and a bulleted list, or an unordered list. So let's see if I can find any examples here on Wikipedia. There we go. This right here is an unordered list, just bullet points. And then down here, we've got a numbered list. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we inspect this right here, you'll see that if we open things up, there's an element. Let me make this a bit larger for you, called an OL. That stands for ordered list. And there's another element for the unordered list. And surprise, surprise, that element is a UL. So we have UL for bullet points and OL for numbered lists. And if we open them up, they both share this in common. They both consist of nested elements. So we have a parent, a list, and then the actual elements inside are a special element called LI, list item. So let me show you how it works. Let's make our own simple list. What should we do for chickens? Maybe we'll just, we're going to make up our own list for different breeds of chickens. So let's see, why don't we do maybe down here after that paragraph? Sure, right about here. Let's add in, what do we want? Let's do I think this will be an H3 maybe, or maybe an H2, breeds. Okay, and then below that I'll add in a UL, which is an unordered list, and it consists only of LIs inside of it. So if we actually go to MDN and we look at one of those, a UL, under permitted content, you'll see that, well, okay, I was technically not right. We can include scripts and templates. We have not covered that. Other than that, only LIs are valid children. So that means we can directly, instead of a UL, only put LIs. And an LI is used to represent a single item in a list. So that could be a bulleted list, an unordered list, or it could be an ordered list. So this is, let's do breeds of chickens. Let's do silky, and then I could make a new LI manually. There's another shortcut I like to use, which is if you are on a line and you want to duplicate that line. On a Mac, it is Shift Option down arrow or up arrow, depending on where you want to duplicate it to. But I'm going to do down. So that will make me, every time I press down, it makes me a new copy. So we'll have a couple different breeds. How about silky, and then Polish chicken, and then we've got our Easter Egger chickens, and then Rhode Island Reds. Okay, or just Rhode Island Red. Save. I'm going to refresh, and there we go. We've got a bulleted list of elements. We've got a bulleted list, unordered. And if I change that UL to instead be an OL, it's now an ordered list. And I'll save and refresh. We now get those numbers. So just one tiny change makes a big difference. But the contents, still just LIs. So LIs are versatile. They work within OLs and ULs, but they do need to be inside one of those. So you're either writing an ordered list or an unordered list. And for the record, you can change how these are numbered. Once we get to CSS, you'll see that we can do things like Roman numerals, for example. Or we could change the bullet point to style it and make it look different. But the main idea is your list ordered or is it unordered? So if this was, top breeds of chickens or my favorite breeds of chickens, then maybe this would make more sense to have it be ordered. But it's not. So I'm going to go back to an unordered list and refresh. And there we go, back to bullet points. Now we can also nest other elements inside of an LI. So a UL and an OL are only supposed to have LIs as their direct children. But the LIs themselves can have whatever we want inside of them. Well, I guess not whatever we want, but we can put in, bold elements, or we could put in italicized text, or do something inside of each LI. In fact, one of the things we can do is actually add in another list. So I've got my bulleted list, and maybe I want a nested bulleted list. And I'm going to go off into the weeds a bit and tell you about chickens. If you're not familiar with chickens, there are different sizes of chickens. There are standard chickens and then bantam chickens, which are just small, generally much smaller breeds. Anyway, Silkies and Polish generally are considered bantams, and then Easter eggers and Rhode Island Reds are larger or standard chickens. So what I'd like to do is have my outline sort of look like this: bantam, and then underneath that I want silky and Polish. And then same thing for these two. I want them grouped in a separate bullet point. So I want nested lists is what I'm trying to say. And to do that, we can actually put a list inside of an LI. So I could have something like this right here: LI, bantam, which is the text I want. And then after that, or inside of that same LI, I can add another unordered list and put my silky and Polish LIs in there. So I've got my unordered list with the first item, which itself has a nested unordered list with 2 items. And I'll refresh. There we go. Bantam breeds, silky and Polish. And then I'll do the same thing here, an LI that just says standard, and then a UL, and then I'll put my 2 standard breeds in there. Save, refresh, there we go, a nested list. And I could keep going with this. I can also do, I could mix it up, and if for some reason I wanted an ordered list instead, I can mix that, and there we go, unordered, ordered. And if we look at Wikipedia, this is how the table of contents up here is done. Nested lists. Ordered, in this case, ordered, 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 ordered. It's all ordered, but it's all nested a couple levels deep. And if we were to inspect, we would see we have a list and then a nested list and a bunch of LIs. They're all nested inside of one another. Okay, so that's the basics of lists: ordered, unordered, 2 different elements, UL and OL, and the LI that goes in either.